Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Beyond the Myth workshop that we started about 9 weeks ago on Karwaan heritage. This was a workshop which was an attempt to fight the distortions of the past, rewriting of history that has been going on under the present regime, and to look back at what our history was academically, and that's the only fight that is worth fighting, academically speaking. So we had a long list of lectures by various historians and our team, which all of you attended, and I hope that it helps you in some ways. And for the last lecture, for the graduation ceremony sort of a thing, what we have planned is to host one of our most important historians of this time, of this age, a pioneer of sorts, a pioneer of the Anal school in Indian historiography, a pioneer in the study of feudalism, Professor Harbans Mukhia, who taught for over 40 years, and I think more than 40 years in JNU and in Delhi University, and has continued to engage with public even after retirement. He is in his late 80s now, and he continues to inspire us every day with the energy that he has, with the enthusiasm and dedication that he has for the discipline of history through his writings, both in Hindi, English, and Bangla, and in other languages as well, translated in Urdu. And as a poet, a brilliant poet, he continues to engage with the public sphere, what Habermas would call public sphere. And today, I thought nobody would be better than Professor Mukhia to engage with all of you, who we call new entrants to historians in training category, who would be better public historians than a lot of other public historians out there, because we tried explaining the historical method to all of you through these different lectures, and using those historical methods, one gets on to writing of history and understanding history more than writing the complexities and various layers of the past. Without further ado, I welcome Professor Mukhia. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out time and for being here. Over to you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, Ishan. Thank you for this lovely introduction to the course that you have held, which is concluding today, and to me. Thank you, very kind of you. Thank you, all of you, for listening to me. And I'm sure all of you have had your dinner, so you would have some time available to you. Well, I've had my dinner, all right. Well, history, let's see. Ishan says that, the whole series was about fighting the myth in history. I'll be speaking about myth and mythology and history at some length here. And also, suggest how historians should deal with myth and mythology and so on and so forth in history. First of all, what does history do, for us? History retrieves the past for us. That's about all. The most simplest thing is history retrieves, recreates, if you like, or reconstructs, if you like, but more than reconstruction, it really retrieves the past for us. How does it retrieve the past for us? It does so by retrieving the facts of history. The fact is crucial element of the study of history. History really consists of facts, essentially, and therefore fact as well as following from it a rational inference from facts, but that we'll come to later on. But facts are crucial to history. That's what historians tell us. So facts retrieve the past for us. Do they actually? That is the question we'll start with. Do they really retrieve the past for us? Partly, yes, they do. Some part of the past they do retrieve for us, but not the whole of the past, because the past also consists of more than facts. It also consists of memories, for example, various kinds of memories, which are often in conflict with facts. So we have to, that's where the historian's job comes in, how to disengage or separate the facts of history from the memories which are at variance with or in conflict with facts. Well, the kind of structure of history that is studied around the world as a discipline was basically laid down in the 19th century by European historians, particularly German historians, especially Leopold von Ranke, the German historian and philosopher. He had defined history in 5 German words and 7 English words, translated into 7 English words. History tells us as it really happened. That's how he defined history. History tells us as it really happened. What does it mean? History tells us as it really happened. Uh, how does history tell us? It's not the historians who tell us how it really happened. Historians could be wrong. Their facts may be inadequate. Their understanding may be wrong. So it's not the historians who tell us how how it really happened. It is history which tells us how it really happened. How does history tell us? So he says that the historian's job today is to go on collecting facts of history. Just go on collecting facts and not judge them, not draw any inference from them, but just go on collecting facts as they are. That's I started with the emphasis on facts. This is where the emphasis on facts is so heavy, in Ranke's vision. So go on collecting facts, and one day all the facts of history will have been collected, and that is the day when history will tell us as it really happened. The emphasis is on really happened, the reality of it, which also means the objectivity of it. Then history will tell us as it really happened, in the sense that there will be no ambiguity about it. There will be no doubt about what really happened. It will be an objective reality retrieved to us, for us, by historians who have been collecting facts. So go on collecting facts. Facts are therefore central to the study of history, and facts which are not interpreted, facts which are objective facts, which are given to us, which are immune to human intervention. They are immune to human intervention because they are already there in the records. So you can't change the records. So you go on collecting facts from the records, from the archives, where the facts are recorded, and one day all facts will have been collected. Now, this was not merely a wild dream for Ranke, or probably it was for Ranke, but the historians in the 19th century did go on collecting facts. And towards the end of this was, Ranke had said this in 1824. History tells us as it really happened. It's a brief statement, as I said, of 5 German words in a preface to his book. In 1824. Towards the end of the 19th century, he was the one who introduced empiricism. Had been evolving for some time, but he was the one who gave a very definitive empiricist grounding to it, or which, if you like, positivist grounding to it. By the end of the 19th century, another positivist empiricist, positivist historian, Lord Acton, told us that the facts have already been, more or less already been collected. So that in another 20 or 30 years, or he didn't say 20 or 30 years, but that was the implication, all the facts would have been would be corrected by another 20, 30 years, and then history will tell us as it really happened. So it was, as I said, not merely a dream of Acton, of Ranke. It was actually near realization by the for some historians like Acton, Lord Acton, it was near realization. Now, so what kind of history do facts retrieved from archives tell us? What kind of facts are there in the archives? Facts relating to kings, queens, elite families, maybe business houses, maybe nobility, etc., nobles, and so on and so forth. Elite families, very, very. These are the facts. These are the facts. These are the groups who would record their facts, and these would be found in the they would find their way in the archives. So the kind of history that it will tell us is the elite history, history of the elites. It won't tell us the history of society or economy or culture or anything. It will just tell us a part of history. Uh, that's one element of Ranke's positivism and Acton's positivism. It gives us only a part of history. But secondly, more importantly, supposing, as Lord Acton said, most of the facts have been collected, and maybe let's extend that to say that maybe by 1920, 30, all the facts will have been collected. What would happen to history then? History would die a natural death. Nothing will be left to do for historians, because all the facts have been collected, and history has told us as it really happened, according to them. So what else is there for the historians to do? So in a way, embedded in this notion of Acton and Lord Acton, Ranke and Lord Acton was, or positivism was, the self-destruction, as it were, of history, as a discipline, because nothing more is left to be done, after the facts have been corrected. Has history died after the 1920s and 30s and so on, when all the facts? It hasn't died, because number one, uh, these are not the entirety of facts. There are many, many more facts which keep on getting destroyed all the time. So history will never tell you as it really happened. It cannot tell you as it really happened, because history keeps on, historical facts keep getting destroyed all the time. They keep getting forgotten, for example. They are not recorded, for example. Even when they are recorded, they get forgotten, and so on and so forth. So history is not a self-destructive discipline. History is an ongoing discipline, because history must renew itself by self-questioning, questioning the past, questioning the received wisdom, and raising new questions, new motives, new themes, etc., etc. History goes on renewing itself. But it did so partly by modifying the Rankian notion of history. Tells us of historical facts as given to us, objective facts as they are given to us, because as they are recorded in the archives. They modified this, several of them. Benedetto Croce, the Italian historian, was one who almost began revising it. His statement is also equally pithy and brief. He said, all history is contemporary history, he said. Well, now, that is to say, history has a context. All history has a context. And when the context changes, history changes. So history is not one objective fact or one objective story which is true for all time. History therefore is a it's a it evolves with the context. When the context changes, the history changes. Because how does it change? How does the context of history change the history itself? Like, you know, in the 16th century, when the text is written, historical text is written, it is asking certain questions, to itself and to society and to its sources. Certain questions which are relevant to the 16th century. In the 18th century, another historian or another group of historians is asking questions to the same sources or to which had been subjected to questioning in the 16th century. But the questions are not 16th century questions. They are 18th century questions. They have arisen in the 18th century. They are relevant to the 18th century. And therefore, they are the context of asking these questions to the same 16th century sources has changed, and therefore history itself has changed. Its meaning, its significance has changed, its meaning has changed. Or in the 20th century, 21st century, when a historian uses the same 16th century sources, his questions are neither 16th century, his or her questions are nearly not 16th or 18th century questions. His or her questions are relevant to 21st century. So new set of questions, and therefore new set of answers from those same sources. So therefore history changes, as the context changes. So that's what he meant by saying all history is contemporary history. That is to say, when you are studying the history of very ancient China or ancient Greece or medieval Europe or whatever today, uh, it has it would have different meanings in each context. To see, the same history will have different meanings in the ancient Chinese context, in the medieval times context, in the modern times context, and so on and so forth. Whatever the subject, whatever the theme, the meaning of history will have changed. It becomes contemporary in the sense in which I explained, namely the questions that you are asking are questions of your time, not of the earlier times. And therefore it becomes contemporary history. And then came the annal historians, the French annal historian, who one of the I mentioned earlier that Ranke had suggested that you don't interpret facts. Facts are given to you. They are objective facts. You don't interpret them. So go wherever the facts lead you. See, don't look sideways, left or right. Just go straight as the facts are leading you, because the facts are given to you. Annal historians, there is no space for imagination in this empiricist kind of history. Facts will lead you straight to the to the objective history. You see, annal historians insisted that there is a lot of imagination required for reconstructing these facts. Not imagining facts. Of course, the facts are given to you, but understanding those facts. See, imagination is required when you study, for example, when Marc Bloch, the great French historian, founder of Annales, one of the two founders of Annales, he used to go to the French villages for about 20-25 years. Every year he would spend some time, some couple of months in the French rural area to understand the French mindset, the French thinking of the earlier times, in which these are not facts given to him. This is what he has to imagine how they would have uh, reacted. For example, he emphasizes that there were no lights then, obviously, any kind of light, not even torch light. So only source of light was you burn a wood or something, or a piece of cotton or something. That's the only source of light you have. So so in Europe, particularly, given uh, uh, their ecology, the nights are not only nights are long, but even not only nights are dark, but even days are dark. What did this darkness do to the thinking of human beings? That's the kind of imagination that he employed. You see, how would they have been? How would they have coped with the darkness, all round darkness, except for 4 months? The sun shone only for 4 months. For 8 months of the year, it was all darkness. How did people cope with this darkness in their daily life, in their imagination, in their work, in their personal relations, in their social relations, and so on? So this requires imagination. You don't get these facts noted in the archives, and so on and so forth. And also that there is much more to history writing than merely facts in the archives. Uh, uh, as Lucien Febvre, he's the other collaborator of the Annal history, he had said, uh, texts, yes, but all kinds of texts and not texts alone. You know, not texts alone. History goes beyond texts. So you have to go beyond. So the space for history expanded. The scope of history expanded beyond the elite history, history of elite groups, and so on and so forth. And the sources for this, the databases of these expanded very greatly. So that history kept evolving from the Rankian history. And yet I started by saying that this is the kind of history, 19th century history, historical structure of history, that or the discipline of history is still alive. We are still within that working within all over the world, everywhere in the world. We are still the kind of history that we are studying in every university, anywhere in the world, is still bound within the framework that Ranke and Acton had given us, but with modifications that have been introduced. Not exactly the same. Facts are still very crucial for understanding history, for studying history, but not facts in the sense of very objective facts that Ranke had understood them, because they are there in the archives. Uh, so that facts are, after all, human creations. You see, they have been created by human beings. When there is a war is fought by human beings. When the war is recorded, it is recorded by human beings. When the records are studied, they are studied by human beings. So human beings are very crucial too. Facts are not immune to human intervention. They are constantly subject to human intervention. So that uh, so that uh, we had gone beyond facts as recorded in the archives, to study history. But then we still have to go even beyond that, in the sense that I started by saying that history recovers the past for us. But past is not merely history, historical records. Past is also memories of various kinds. Past is various kinds of memories of the past are part of memories inherited from the past, are part of this past that we. So past is bigger than history. Past is recorded history, events, facts, etc., plus the memories that have survived, that continue to survive, they continue to influence us. These memories, they come from religions, memories of religious memories. Uh, the when you say, "Hey Ram, what have I done?" Where does Ram come from? He comes from memory, and you don't have to explain what Ram means to you. You see, don't have to explain Ram was there in the Ramayana and he was a character, etc., etc. Ram is given to you see, as part of memory, you see, or or Krishna or any Shiva, etc., etc. They are given to you. Or when you say uh, when you mention the town of Kurukshetra, it's not merely a town of Kurukshetra with the university there and so on. Immediately something else strikes you, you know. Kurukshetra, we all remember that. You don't have to recollect it deliberately. We all remember that Kurukshetra is where Mahabharata was fought. Whether Mahabharata actually was fought there or not, that is a different question. But our memory tells us that Mahabharata was fought in Kurukshetra. Mahabharata battle was fought in Kurukshetra. Or when we use the term ये लक्ष्मण रेखा है, you can't cross the Lakshman Rekha. Nobody has to explain to you who Lakshman was and what Rekha was. You know, what is a Lakshman Rekha? We all know it because that's part of our memory, which has been handed down to us for hundreds of years, probably more than hundreds of years, thousands of years. It has been handed down to us. So that memory is also I'll go into the question of memory as a fact, etc., etc. But memory is also part of the past that we seek to recover. And memory, I mentioned religion as one source of this memory. There are many other sources of it. You know. The literature is one grand source of forget about Ramayana as a religious text. Look at it as literary text, or Mahabharata as a literary text. How much of it deals with uh, how much of it survives in our memory, you know, as a literary text. You know, even if we um, even if we completely ignore the fact that Ramayana is a historical text, a historical narrative that these events did take place, etc., or Mahabharata war did take place. Forget about that, whether they took place or not. But it's part of our memory, which is part of literature, which has survived in our memory. You know? So literature is one, religion is one, literature is another, folklores, folk tales, folk songs, folk paintings or other paintings, music, all of these, in a way, have revived the memory of the past in one way or the other. You know, the folk tales, and these are often at variance with historical facts. See, there are also social memory, you know, which is our folk view of historical events, which is very different from the historical narrative itself. You see, just to take two or three examples, Prithviraj Raso, we know from history that Prithviraj defeated in the second battle of Tarai, etc., etc., and he was killed. But there is also the folk memory of that in Prithviraj Raso, you know, which is at variance with historical memory, which tells us that he was taken prisoner and so on and so forth, you know, or Jodhabai. You see, historians tell you there was no Jodhabai who was Akbar's wife. No, he has many wives, including Rajput wives, but Jodhabai was not one of them. Jodhabai actually, if there was a wife of an Mughal emperor, it was Jahangir's wife who came from Jodhpur, you see. So Jodhabai. So that we know that historical facts are that Jodhabai was not a living human being, living person who was Akbar's wife. And yet the popular memory is which is at variance, as I said, with historical fact. This popular memory can't really be erased. You see, when this film Jodhabai was made, Akbar Jodhabai was made recently. It has been made many times. Uh, uh, the makers, producers went to historians like Irfan Habib and some others, and everybody said there was no Jodhabai, and they still went ahead and made it, and yet it broke all records, so I'm told, of viewership, you see, because people want to they don't, they have this memory of Jodhabai, they have maintained this, they have received this memory of Jodhabai, it rests in their minds, and therefore they wouldn't forget it. Or Padmini, the Padmini was born, if you like. Uh, Alauddin Khilji died in 1316, and Padmini was born in 1540. And yet, Alauddin Khilji was a great lover of Padmini, and he went and fought war, etc., to retrieve her, and so on and so forth. And she was not born of a father and mother, she was born only of a father, namely Malik Muhammad Jaisi, who created Padmini out of his mind. And yet, Padmini is part of the memory. Go to Mewar area or Rajasthan area, Padmini is part of. And in fact, not only Mewar and Rajasthan, Padmini became a part of the freedom struggle, actually, an icon in the freedom struggle in Bengal. That in Bengal, when freedom struggle was turning into Hindu and Muslim conflict, Bankim and so on, Bankim Chattopadhyay and so on. So this Padmani was retrieved there in Bengal as an icon of resistance to what was called foreign rule by Bankim and others, but which was actually Muslim rule, meant to be Muslim rule, and so that there are memories, various kinds of memories, which are part of the past, which are not, which are, which survived in people's, and these can't be erased by saying these are not facts of history. See, we'll come to that, how to deal with them. But if you just say, look, these are, I mean, the facts that I told you, there was no Jodhabai in history, but so nobody will believe. I mean, those who want to believe in this, who have this memory of Jodhabai, they will not believe it by if a historian goes, and the historian did tell the producers of the film that there was no Jodhabai. Nobody believed it. And but memories can also be created. They don't only arise on their own, they do arise on their own. Folklores arise on their own. Then they develop, then they evolve and expand, and so on and so forth. But these are also created with a certain objective in mind. Or let me before I go to this creation, I almost missed this point. The Ayodhya issue, Ram Janmabhoomi Babri Masjid issue. All historians mentioned that, stated that very after a lot of research, that there was no temple, there was no Ram temple which was demolished by Babur or by anybody else to build the Babri Masjid there. Babri Masjid was built, but not on top of a demolition of a temple and so on. So that is what historians, and that is a version that even Supreme Court has accepted, that there was no temple which was, not only no Ram temple, no temple was demolished to build in their 2019 judgment. The Supreme Court said that the demolition of Babri Masjid was a heinous crime, and those criminals should be tried in the court of law. And the criminals that were those who committed this crime included people like L.K. Advani and M.M. Joshi and Uma Bharti and so on and so forth. This is Supreme Court's judgment, not my judgment. So that so historians did tell you again and again that there was no Ram temple, there was no temple which was due. And yet, the connection between Babri Masjid site and a temple, first a temple, then a Ram temple, it gradually grew to a Ram temple, began to arise somewhere towards the end of the 18th century, maybe mid of the 18th century, maybe end of the 18th century. I'm saying this end of the 18th century because in 1822, there is a court document submitted in Faidabad court by the Rugai Adalat, who happened to be Muslim, that where the Babri Masjid stands today, there is also a chabutra there where Ram, the son of Dashrath, was born there. Ram Janamsthan. It's a document written in Persian, but he writes in Persian text, Persian script. This was the Ram Janamsthan. So by 1822, it was getting accepted even by court, at the court level, that there was a Ram Janamsthan inside the premises of the Babri Masjid. Not inside that, but within the courtyard of the Babri Masjid. So it began to grow, and by 19th century there were lots of clashes on this issue of Babri Masjid and Ram Janmabhoomi, etc., etc. And yet the facts of history could not override the memories that people had, or the or the use that was this memory was put to. You see, after all, the mobilization for Ram Janmabhoomi was a mobilization of people's memories. For 500 years, still they keep on saying, for 500 years we had to fight for this site, etc., etc. Ultimately, so this memory of was retrieved, which overrode the historical facts in a way. Now, as I said, memories can also be created. Then they expand and evolve, and they clash with historical facts. I'll just quickly give two examples of creation of memories and with a certain use of memories, and which are at variance with historical facts. For example, if you ask, the memory would be, if you ask, how did Muslims get converted? How did Hindus get converted to Islam in the medieval India, in medieval India's history? So the quick answer would be the state. State converted them by force or by temptation. Islam or the sword. You have to choose between Islam and sword. So people chose, or jizya was imposed on them. So they or the temptations were given. So the state was the chief agency of conversion to Islam. That is the popular memory. Uh, this memory has been created not even the 16th century, not in the 17th century, but from the 18th century onwards, it began to be created that the state was responsible for and particularly in the 19th century, the medieval Indian state, Muslim state, was the great agency of conversion to Islam. And the fact is that, very simple fact is that if you look at the division of Muslim population in the Indian subcontinent, undivided Indian subcontinent, the Muslim population is distributed into four regions of undivided India. What is now Pakistan, what is now Bangladesh in the east, Pakistan in the west, in the north, Kashmir, and down south in Kerala, one small district, Malabar district. That's where the Muslims have always been and are in a majority. These four are peripheral regions of India. They are in the four corners: north, east, west, north, south. In these regions, the hold of the Muslim state, so-called Muslim state, medieval Indian state, was the least effective. It was always contested. It was anyway in any empire or state, the at the out peripheries, the hold of the state is always weakest. It's really hard, strongest in the heartland of the empire or kingdom or state. So in these four corners of peripheries of India, the whole of the medieval Indian state or Muslim state was always contested, always episodic, or never very strong and never very for very long. And therefore, the state was not in a position to convert people on a massive scale. They did convert many people, but not on a masses of people were not converted by the state. It goes against all historical facts. Just simple historical fact that I mentioned to you, that the demographic distribution of Muslim population will tell you that state had very little hand in the conversion. There are many other hands and many other agencies and many other reasons, but state was not the most important of them. Was not only not the only one, but not even the most important of them. Or that India was sone ki chidiya in ancient India, then it declined, in the medieval period. Actually, if you go to the 1700s, just after the death of Aurangzeb, who died in 1707, India was at height of its economic progress. 25%, 25% of the world's GDP was produced in India. 1/4 of the world's wealth was produced in India in the 1700s. It was those riches which has bedazzled the European travelers. They just couldn't believe that any empire or any emperor or any king region can be so rich as to just waste away money. Well, not waste away, spend money on huge constructions and dams, and not only monuments and mosques and so on, but also canals and dams and so on and so forth. So that it was at its highest, it was the most prosperous in the 1700s. But we are told that this again has been constructed. The memory has been constructed for reasons which are obvious. Now, finally, when past consists of facts as well as of memories, various kinds of memories, which are often at variance with the facts, historical facts. How does a historian deal with them? Well, well, merely dismissing these, these are fiction. This is all fiction. It doesn't help. It hasn't. To say that Ramayana is or Mahabharata is a fiction. Yes, well, fiction in the sense that it's literary creation, creation of imagination, which is true. The historical events, the events that are described in the Ramayana and Mahabharata, these couldn't have taken place as such. They are not historical events, but that but that doesn't diminish the significance of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata in people's lives and people's memory and people's consciousness. Doesn't diminish. Actually, if you look at it, the significance of Ramayana and Mahabharata is much, much greater than the significance of history in people's life or historical facts. How many, when you, if a few 100,000 or a few lakhs of students pass the class 12 exam, what percentage of them goes to study history? Maybe 1%, maybe 0.5%, maybe 1.5%. Yes, they study history. For them, historical facts become very, very significant. But for the rest, 98.5%, 99%, these Ramayana and Mahabharata are not don't get erased by historian telling them no, there was no such thing as Ram and Krishna and so on and so forth. They still remain. The spread of this of the spread of the influence of Ramayana and Mahabharata, etc., is much wider than the spread of history is. It can never match the history can never match the spread of. There is not a family. There wouldn't be a family where you didn't find somebody or the other with the name of Ram or Krishna or Shiva or Hanuman or whatever, Bajrang, whatever. There is not one Hindu family anywhere where whether it is North India, if it is North India, it's Ramakrishna, it is South India, it's Ramamurti, Krishnamurti, etc., etc. So that the spread of so to say that these are not facts of history is not to underrate or understate the significance of these. The significance of these in lives of people, cultural lives of people, almost daily lives of people. But to understand that, there are two different genres of knowledge. One is historical facts, which we have. Some of them come from archives, some of them come from archaeology, some of other sources that I mentioned. Some of them, and then there are then there are the myths, or if you like, mythologies, if you like, folklore, if you like, folk tales, and so on and so forth, or memories, as they call them. You see, these are two different genres of knowledge. Not you can't you can't contest one by citing the other. See, because those are not based on facts. History is based on facts, whatever kind of facts. Those are not based on facts. So you can't contest them by citing facts to them. See, because they are not they are not vulnerable to susceptible to the citation of facts and therefore correction. They are so what the historian has to do is to understand not only how history changes, which I talked about, but how have these memories, how were they created? When were they created? What was the cultural context in which they were created? What were the political context in which they were created? What was the objective, or if there was any objective for which these created? So to these memories may not be historically correct, historical facts, but what is a fact is that people have these memories. You see, the fact that people have this memory is also a fact. The people have this memory is a fact of history. And you have to analyze that fact of history. How do people acquire this memory? And in what context do they acquire these memories? And how do they arise? And how do they spread? And how do they evolve? And so on and so forth. That is the historian's job, to separate the two, not to denounce the other. To say, oh, that is nonsense, that is fiction, etc., etc., but to separate the two. You see, the historical fact and the and the memories that have been created, some around these facts, some of beyond these facts. It is a historian's job to analyze. See, and finally, let me say that history has two functions really. One, history tells us how societies change over time. So how was it 200 years earlier, 500 years, how is it today? How societies change. By society, I mean all inclusive. How politics change, how economies change, how culture changes, how societies change over time. That's one. And therefore, once you understand how societies change, you also learn to manage this change. Uh, Karl Marx had said, uh, philosophers have interpreted the world, so far interpreted the world. The point is to change it. Change was central to his thinking. But he said about philosophers, but could as well be true of historians. They must use their knowledge of society, social change, to change society. So that was, it was also changed. That knowledge was used to change society in Soviet Union, etc., etc. It didn't work out, but knowledge of change of society can also, you can also manage the change. And let us we are aware, something that Ishan had started by saying, we are aware that how today's managers of politics and society are managing the change in society, deliberately changing in a very distorted manner, not in a progressive manner, not taking it further, but taking it backward. But they are managing change by conditioning people's mind through their versions of history and past and so on and so forth, and memory and so on and so forth. So historians have to be aware, number one, that history explains change, and therefore how this, what kind of history is being explained, and history explains change and can be managed to can be used to manage change. How this change is being managed by the use of history, that is what historians have to be aware of. And secondly, the second function that history performs is that uh, uh, it it gives legitimacy to regimes. That's what the current regime is trying to seek, legitimacy from 1,000 years of slavery and decline in the Muslim period, etc., etc. They are seeking legitimacy from for that. But it also, history also legitimizes opposition to, challenge to the legitimacy of the regime. It also legitimizes regimes. It also legitimizes challenges to those, to that regime. So history is a two-sided weapon. It can be used by regime. It can also be used by those who want to challenge that regime. That is where the historian's task is we have to decide on which side of history, historical change, or in which side of legitimacy of through history are we on. Are we for this kind of change that is being brought about, or are we for the kind of change that is far more desirable for the country's progress, social progress, and all of us. Well, thank you very much. I hope there are questions.
Thank you so much, sir. I will now open the floor for the audience to interact with Professor Mukhia. We have about 15, 20 minutes because sir will have to go. And Tanpreet has a question, I think. No. Anybody else who has a question? There are some comments. Ritu says, thank you very much, sir. Sudakshina says, very inspiring and insightful. Mandiradi has a question.
Right.
Mandiradi, you can also speak in Bangla. I think sir is
Oh, well,
quite good in Bangla.
no, it's
Of
not.
course he is, but what about the others? Thank you for this sort of inspiring, a little bit comforting, and a little bit distressing lecture. Just told us that, if we call it a fact, that when in 1707 this subcontinent was extremely prosperous. Its GDP was 25%, or what that Shashi Tharoor says is 22%, or whatever. But it was extremely wealthy, one of the wealthiest parts of the world, perhaps vying with China, who knows? That's what lured the West, right? As you pointed out.
Right.
But we have this dialogue going on from the myth makers that that it was a whole period of darkness.
Yes.
So why did the West come and loot us? I mean, logic doesn't seem to work here.
Right. Right. Right.
And someone else said, whereas uh, I mean, the Muslims are supposed to be invaders, but the British are arrivals.
Yes. Yes. Yes, yes. Let me pick up the second comment first. Yes, language is very important. You see, what language you use. So and so was executed, so was assassinated, so and so was killed. What language you are using? Even for the history that we were talking of, is it medieval history? It is Muslim history? Is it Mughal history? What history is it? So what language you are using makes a lot of difference. We were told by James Mill in 1818 that your history is divided into Hindu period, Muslim period, and British period. So we learned that for about 200 years. Then we changed it to ancient and medieval and modern. So because there was a change of perspective. So language is very important. You are right that Muslims are invaders. And why are the Muslims invader and British are well, not visitors really, but what was the term used?
I think there was I think
Arrivals.
it's Professor
Arrivals.
Key who said they're called arrivals.
Arrivals. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they were arrivals. Yeah.
They just came.
So it really depends on what kind of legitimacy you are seeking. See, if you are seeking your legitimacy from treating those who were actual invaders, and well, Muslims were invaders in the sense that they came as invaders, certainly. But let us also keep in mind that invasions and migrations were part of the world scenario. See, everywhere, there is not an inch of earth which has not either been invaded or which has not been subjected to migration from long distances. See, everywhere there have been invasions and everywhere there have been migrations of people. See. So that India is not particularly an exception in being invaded and being receptacle of having received migrants and so on and so forth. So India is one of them. India has had a very large number of invasions and immigrants, yes, but every society has had it. And particularly these dominant societies today, USA and Australia and New Zealand, there are all societies of migrants. You see, hardly any indigenous people there. So that who is an invader? An invader is one. Nadir Shah was an invader. Yes, Ahmad Shah Abdali was an invader. He came, looted and plundered and went back with all the loot. He was an invader. But those who come and settle down here and become Indians in every which way, what except for their names, they don't become Hindus. They remain Muslims, but Indians. See, Indianization takes place on a massive scale. Cultural seepage. The Hindu culture begins to seep into their culture. Let me just give you one quick example. See, uh, Babar's Babar had several daughters, well, at least some daughters. They got married and they got divorced and they got married again and they got divorced again, or their husband died and they got married again. Twice, thrice they got married. Babar mentions that quite casually, neither with approval nor with disapproval. They just got married twice, thrice, etc. Shah Jahan has two great daughters, Jahan Ara and Roshan Ara. They are princesses of the highest, the richest land richest empire, they don't get married. Why don't you get married? Not because there won't be eligible bachelors around, but because one explanation was given was that the emperors didn't want any sons-in-law because sons-in-law would become rivals to their own sons. No, that's not true. Emperors' daughters did get married. But these two can't get married because, as I understand it, a cultural seepage was taking place in Muslim society as generally, or in Central Asian culture, society in generally. Uh, there is no hierarchy of relationship between the marrying families, you see. In Hindu society, there is a hierarchy of relations. That is to say, लड़के वाले हैं, हम लड़के वाले हैं, हम लड़की वाले हैं. There is a world of difference between them, hierarchy. They are far superior. They are supposed to be superior, लड़के वाले, and supposed to be inferior, subordinate to the लड़के वाले, etc. Now, this is the culture which has seeped into the imperial family, Shah Jahan's family, where his daughters can't find a bridegroom who's superior to them. You see, where will you find a prince, or anybody who's superior to Shah Jahan's own children? You see, they can't be, so they can't get married. They have affairs on the sly. That is different, but or supposed to have had, but they can't get married, because this cultural seepage has taken place. Hindu cultural seepage has taken place, that they can't get married. And later, gradually, widows also remained unmarried in Muslim families, elite Muslim families. Widows remain unmarried. Once again, cultural seepage of Hindu. So I'm saying that they came and settled down and became Indians. So they would be invaders if they came and plundered and went away, which they were. Nadir Shah was, and Ahmad Shah Abdali was. But Mughals and prior to them, sultans, they came, invaded, settled their empires, and settled down here. They never went back. Not one of them set foot outside of India, outside of their empire, outside of India, ever. Not one of them. So that how are they invaders? The invaders are really the British who came, or as I said earlier, Nadir Shah and Ahmad Shah Abdali, or the British who came, plundered, and went back, governed us and went back, governed us for plunder, not for our welfare, but for plunder. So they are the invaders, you see. But then you use the language changes according to what use you are putting it to. You see, if you are changing it to legitimize your current regime as opposed to the Muslim invaders or Muslims as such, then you use that term invaders. And then when you were subservient to the British colonial regime, then you call them welcome tourists or welcome visitors or whatever. But yes, there is a there is a question here: is the Anal tradition still thriving, or is it retreated? Well, there is a good question. Is the Anal, I don't know who it is by, is the Anal tradition still thriving, or has it retreated, or was it influenced so much that it left an imprint on most of the history writing, or most of the history that writing that followed, and the need to maintain it as a separate tradition became obsolete? Yeah, there are lots of good comments in this. Yeah, I think one, that Anal tradition is not what it started with. It started as a protest actually against the positivist and Marxist certitude. You see, the certitude that was inherent in positivism, Marxism. Marxism is a variation of positivism. uh, it was a protest against that. It was more flexible than positivism was. Positivism, tried to explain that certitude inheres in the notion that these are objective facts. They can't be changed. That is the certitude. So it will facts will definitively lead you to an objective reality, that is history, you see, or objective past. That certitude was diluted by annal historians, and I try to say that they went into the study of mindsets, culture, thinking of people, personal relations, even mentalities, as they call it, which are not given to facts, positivist facts, and so on. So, but it has changed considerably. It's not the same as it started on, as it must change. But it still survives. It's still not only is the journal still flourishing, journal Anal still flourishing, but it does remain. But it has become. It has tradition has got incorporated worldwide. Worldwide history writing has been influenced by it, not incorporated, but influenced by it. So worldwide historical themes have changed from very certitude, from the very certain kind of definitive kind of economic history, statistics, and so on and so forth, to political dynastic history, etc., to various kinds of histories at the social levels, at the margins of history, margins of societies, in the notions of people's minds, and so on and so forth. So it has become a worldwide phenomenon. It has influenced the history worldwide, but naturally it is not the same thing as it started earlier. But it remains vibrant. It remains intact. Any other question?
There is from Tanpreet.
Huh? Oh,
Tan-
Ji.
Yeah, thank you so much, Professor. I mean, I don't know if it's really a question, but you spoke so much about memory in history, right? Uh, Once we look around ourselves, we see memory can also be created, right? Like today, I don't know, maybe that movie Chhawa, right? Today it looks like fictional movie, but if people keep watching it, people keep talking it, in 50 years, 100 years, people might think that is memory, and historians might disagree. So how do you balance that then? How do you think about it that then? When you see that memory can be created today artificially as well.
In fact, I used precisely that language. Memories can be created, and I mentioned some of these. You see, so yes, they are created. They evolve on their own. They get created deliberately with a particular purpose. And as the example that you mentioned just now, this chabi or something,
Chhawa.
chaya.
Yeah.
I don't watch films particularly of this kind, historical kind. But anyway, they are created, deliberately created, with a particular purpose. You see, now our job is to understand the purpose for which they are created, and B, to contest that purpose itself. You see, the purpose, these are created to spread communal violence, communal tension in society, and communal violence in society. Our job is precisely to contest the legitimacy of communal violence and communal tension in society. Whether through these films or through books or through stories or whatever. We have to contest that. We have to be we have to take sides on that. We can't remain neutral when these are created for us. When they evolve, they change their shape and size and scope all the time. Folklores, for example, keep evolving. Think of Akbar Birbal stories, they keep evolving all the time, you see. But they're not created as such with a particular purpose. They are created, certainly, yes, and we have to take them on as a challenge. Yes, I think. Is it possible for?
Yeah, we are just ending. So, but before that, I just want to show some of your books to the people here.
Okay, well,
Because you mentioned that the Mughals first came as invaders or they came as outsiders, but then they became Indians. Your book called The Mughals of India, or in Hindi it's called Bharatiya Mughals, actually,
It tells you what I think of.
yes, helps us build on that edifice and understand Mughal India through that lens that you.
They are Bharatiya Mughal. I call them Bharatiya Mughal, precisely. Yes.
After that, there are some more books that I would recommend people here. This is a that they all wrote, Romil,
Oh,
Professor Mukhia and Bipin Chandra, called Communalism and the Writing of Indian
it
History.
was in 1969.
I have about 10, 15 copies of this booklet. If you need one, those of you who are here, those of you in Calcutta, I'll bring some with me to give to all of you. There's one book that Professor Mukhia is known for. It's historians and historicity during the reign
Well,
of
this was my first book. This was my PhD thesis, actually.
his
Yes.
PhD thesis, which he has dedicated to Professor K. Ashraf Sahab. And
He
from
was my guru. Dr. K.M. Ashraf was my guru, so I've dedicated
Basically, Professor Mukhia is the first batch of Kirodimal College when it shifted to the university. So the first batch, and Victor sir, who is Anusha's partner, is one of the many alumni, notable alumni of KM College, along with Professor Mukhia. So they are all are the KM College gang.
it.
Book is this collection of essays exploring India's medieval centuries on politics, on society, on technology. Technology is a 3, 4 volume on history of technology that he wrote. Then this is another book of essays that he wrote, Issues in Indian History, Politics and Society. And another collection of essays which you would find in different Indian Express and Times of India, a bit of history, a bit of politics. These are all books that you must read.
Thank you for being my publicist.
And fortunately, I got all of them autographed. And if you want your books autographed, you can let me know. I'll visit autographed. And finally, if you read poetry, this is Kuch Udas by Professor.
Kuch Udas Nazme is the title. Kuch Udas Nazme is the title.
And interestingly, there's only one Udas Nazam in this entire booklet,
There's several.
which I think is called Udasi. The unwan of the Nazam is Udasi. But thank you so much, Professor Mukhya,
Thank you.
so
Okay,
much
thank
time to be with us. It is always an honor
my pleasure.
hosting
My
you.
pleasure, always a pleasure to interact with people, colleagues, friends from within the discipline, from outside the discipline. It's always a great pleasure.
And
One
next,
learns a lot.
I'll see you in the movie theaters.
Okay.
The documentary on Professor will come out next year. I can also see Victor in the background. You
Okay.
all know him as Vijay Krishna Acharya.
To
Okay.
kill mosquitoes.
See you very soon.
Okay.
Two
Bye.
same college gundas are here now.
Okay.
One very old, one is very new. Two of them meeting together.
Hello, sir.
Hello. Hello.
I was there for the alumni when you were on stage, but
I see.
yeah, I thought by the time I could reach you, I think you were leaving.
Well, well, you could have held me back. You could have called me up.
Next time, I think we are going
Next
to
time,
do
yes.
another KM College reunion, and I shall see you then.
Yeah, going to KM College once more is not easy, but if you are there, I'll certainly turn up.
I'll come and look you up in Delhi, sir.
Great. That will be lovely. Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Okay, Anusha,
Thank
lovely
you.
seeing you.
Lovely. Yes.
Remember me to your brother.
I will for
Yeah.
sure.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Uncle.
Okay.
Thank you, Ishan. for
Thank
this
And I'll just request everybody to stay back. Professor Mukhya will leave, but Chandni would like to say something to all of you, those who have registered for the workshop. So Chandni, over to you.
Okay, so I was tasked with giving a sort of an emotional farewell here. But I think that life must go on because we're already always doing something or the other. And we started this workshop last year. So this is only the second installment that we've had. And it's only been about a year or two since we started doing the workshops. And the love that we received from all of you, and what amazes me the most is that everybody who's joined us, most of the people who've joined us are not from the field of art or history or even the social sciences for that matter. So it's very gratifying to see in person, yeah, online at least, put faces to the fact कि हम जो काम कर रहे हैं, it actually is making sense to people outside of the history circle. And the fact and this is something that when we were teenagers we started Karwaan. Ishan was 19, all of us were 18, 19 when we joined him. We used to think कि इससे हमें हम लोग join कर रहे हैं as kids, will this earn us any resource? We're growing up, will this earn us anything? Will this earn us anything except for adulation that we've enjoyed for so many years already? And the fact that आप सबने join किया, and with the kind of questions that you asked and the input that you gave us through your insights into this, through your experience of the world politics, or through your general reading, has been very illuminating for us and also humbling for us कि हम सिर्फ अकेले 30 मार खान नहीं है जो हिस्ट्री की किताबें पढ़ रहे हैं. For people who are not even interested in this field, they are also been reading a lot. So thank you very much for joining us so enthusiastically for this workshop. This workshop has been a very, very pleasant surprise for all of us because we've had over 100 requests for this and we had to actually put a cap on it. हमें 2 दिन पहले बंद करना पड़ा कि बहुत ज़्यादा हो जाएगा, तो how will we interact with so many people? So thank you so much for joining us and for telling us that हमारे काम की value है, that what we're doing isn't just something that is just making sense to us as teenagers, it's something that makes sense to the wider world. So thank you very much for joining in. And like I said, Ishan told me that, leave with softer or finer words, but I'll do something else. आपने हमारा इतना हौसला बांध दिया है that we are continuously working on workshops or walks. So we're already in motion we've already released the workshop on architecture. It's starting on 18th of September. I hope to see all of you there, at least most of you there, and we look forward to having similar illuminating conversations there as well. So thank you very much for assuring us that what we're doing is making sense to all of you, or that it has a value to it other than aesthetic value. So thank you very much for your time, for your conversations, and for your input into the discussions that we've had for 3 months. Unlike the Beyond the Myth workshop, we promise that this is a limited series workshop. 21 lectures ही होंगे इसमें. We'll meet you for a shorter period of time, but we'll be back again in January because we've decided to make this a regular feature of the work that we're doing here at Karma. So thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you in 2018, 15, 16 days. Yes. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. It's been lovely talking to all of you.
And we have an optional 30% discount for the work participants of this workshop. If you want to join, there's an optional 30%. If you want to get that 30%, you can write to Chandni or me or Shishti. Shishti is actually at a field visit. She's working with Intac, Bhopal, and she's going on some heritage conservation field trip. So she's in some rural part of Madhya Pradesh for which she's not able to join us. But she sends her regards to all of you and says that you all were great students, as she puts it, and she got to learn a lot. She, I think, did the ancient India part. And as I already mentioned, you all are welcome to join us for the next 1 year, whichever lecture we do online, except the workshop lectures. Other lectures are available for you to join us on Zoom and interact with historians because we couldn't get some of the historians for you, which we promised. So this is something that we'll do for the next 1 year. And then we have a book club that we mentioned last time. Every month we'll meet once to discuss some of the readings on history, not just on history, but also on different world issues which we are faced with. And starting from Calcutta, we are going to meet in Calcutta on the 10th in person to start off with this Bathak series that we'll put online later on. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care. Keep reading, keep thinking, keep questioning. That's how you'll keep yourself sane in these insane times.
Also, just a second, for any feedback that you have for us, अगर आपको हमें in one-on-one देना है, आप हमें से किसी को भी DM कर सकते हैं. Please feel free to directly message any one of us for any feedback that you have, good or bad. that you wish that we make a clear notice of in our next workshop series that we do. So feedback is most welcome. Yeah, just wanted to put that out. So thank you. Yeah, Ishan, bye bye kar do.
कह रही है आने को, मैंने उसको बोला है वो she just message she wants to join. अभी if she can come ठीक है, नहीं तो thank you so much. टाटा, बाय बाय. बाय
Good
बाय.
night. Thank you.
रुक जाओ, सृष्टि आएगी तो हम तीन तो बैठे गप्पेबाजी के लिए. ये दूसरे लोग भी रुक सकते हैं, ऐसी कोई बात नहीं है. मतलब गप्पेबाजी आपने करनी है, आप आ जाएं.
मुझे जाना है, मुझे पढ़ना है अभी.
बताओ कितना पढ़ोगी. जावेद साहब का एक वो आया है. जावेद साहब का स्टेटमेंट आया है भाई साहब, 1 पेज का.
अभी रुक जाओ. मुझे
जावेद
कोई लिंक दे दो प्लीज, उसको लिंक दे दे भाई. तुमने रिकॉर्डिंग बंद करी, हमारी बातें रिकॉर्ड हो रही है.